Hello there and welcome to another Coffee with Colin, and thanks for tuning in. Today I'm talking about the second in a four-part series that I put together to help you live a more effective life. Last week we looked at the priority management matrix and in particular quadrant 2 living. Today we're going to look at the big rocks theory. I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. Next week, if you come back, we'll look at the roles that you and I play in our lives, and the week after that I'm going to give you a calendar that actually works to deliver on all of the above. So, the big rocks theory, some of you may have heard of it in the past. If you have, well then it's probably worthwhile getting a refresher here today. Many of you out there perhaps haven't stumbled across the big rocks theory yet, so let me explain. Stephen Covey, author of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and one of my all-time favourite thought leaders, introduced me to the priority management matrix from last week, and also introduced me to the big rocks theory, which I'm going to explain today. And he used an analogy. I've put some graphics into the blog and into the video to help you follow along. So what is the big rocks theory? Well, Stephen Covey explained it like this. He said, imagine a large glass bowl or a large glass vase. And the bowl or the vase represents all time available to you or I. Now, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, or indeed your full life. The vase represents all time available to you and I. And we're going to imagine that we're going to fill this vase with 3 elements. We're going to fill it with sand, gravel, and big rocks. And we're going to start with sand. So let's imagine that my hand now represents the large glass bowl, and we're going to pour sand in the top, and the sand is going to come up to about halfway in the large glass bowl. Okay. Once the sand is in place, we're going to now add in the gravel. Gravel goes in on top and it comes up, say, another half again. We're now at 3/4 level. And finally, we're going to put in the big rocks on top. And what we find invariably when we try to approach it like this, sand, gravel and big rocks, that invariably, because we can't go up beyond the top, the rim of the vase or the bowl, we find that there isn't enough room for all the big rocks. And so what does the sand and the gravel and the big rocks represent in your life and in mine? Well, let me explain. So the sand represents all of that stuff below the line in the priority management matrix in quadrants 3 and quadrant 4 that really suck up our time. It's stuff that is foisted on us by others, living to other people's agendas, answering phone calls that we really don't want to answer, answering emails that make no sense to us, attending meetings perhaps that really again are other people's agendas and not ours. Quadrant 4 is that stuff that just wastes time. Won't get into that. You can go to last week's blog to find out more. But the bottom line is the sand is the stuff that just fills up the time in our day, in our hour, in our week, in our month, in our year. It's just stuff. So we're up to about halfway with sand at this moment in time. We can only go as far as the top of the rim of the bowl. So the question is, what are we going to do with the rest? We're going to pour in the gravel next, and the gravel represents all of that stuff that really is important to us in the scheme of our lives. It is perhaps career-oriented stuff, it's relationship-oriented stuff, it's health-oriented stuff, it's finance-oriented stuff, but it has a deadline attached to it. It's a quadrant 1 activity from our priority management matrix. It is important, needs to be handled. You can't have a life without gravel. Indeed, you can't have a life without sand. But look at what's happening here. The bowl that represents all of the time available to us is filling up. It's already half full with sand. It's now another half full, and we're now 3/4 full with gravel. And all that's left is this remaining portion of the glass bowl that is all time in our life. And we're going to try and put the big rocks in there. So what are the big rocks? The big rocks are actually the important things in our life. The big rocks are actually those things that when we look back from the vantage point of our 80th birthday, all going well, and we look back on our lives, the big rocks are those things that actually were important and actually make us smile with fond memories, or perhaps make us weep because the memories aren't so fond, because we didn't give them enough time, didn't give them enough due attention. So look what's happening here. The glass bowl that represents all time available to us has been half filled with the sand, other people's agendas, other people's ideas of how we should run our lives. The next quarter or thereabouts is taken up with the gravel, stuff that we do need to handle. But the bottom line is we're running out of space, we're running out of time. And then we're only left with this amount of space at the top to allow us to spend time on the important stuff, the stuff that really is important in the scheme of our lives. So There's a dilemma here because invariably when you fill up your bowl like this, you run out of space and some of the big rocks get left out. The question is, how can you do something about this? And the answer is, you start again. The bowl is empty. The bowl is your life. You can decide how you apply your time. And the way to apply your time properly is, in fact, to put the big rocks in first. So look what happens here. If you put the big rocks in first, the big rocks get handled. The important stuff in your life gets handled. You get to your 80th birthday looking back and realise that you've actually taken care of the stuff that really mattered in the scheme of your life. The big rocks go in first. You can imagine that. They fill half of the bowl. The gravel goes in on top of that because gravel is stuff that we have to handle in our lives. It goes in on top of that. But you can see that it permeates down between the gaps in the big rocks. It falls down and fills those gaps and perhaps rises slightly above the top of the big rocks. And that leaves you ample space to put in the sand on top of that again. And again, sand being smaller than gravel will find its own way and it'll fall down and fill the crevices and fill the gaps. As you end up with the same amount of time available, being able to handle all of the stuff in your life. The big rocks first, the gravel second, and then if you want to, handle the sand stuff on top of that. And the bottom line is, you and I get to live a more effective life. And thank you for joining me for this week's Coffee with Colm. I hope and I trust that you got something from it. If it's your first time here and you'd like more of this type of stuff, pop to the homepage, ColmoBryanMotivation.com, leave me your details, and we'll send you a link like this every week. If you think somebody else would benefit, I'd be delighted if you'd pass the link on to them. If you feel it's been of particular benefit and you'd like to share something back with me, you might go to the bottom of the blog and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, please consider what's been shared here today and apply it into your thinking for next week. And then equally as importantly, please come back next week, be my guest, and let's have another coffee together. We'll talk next week about the roles that you and I play, and the following week thereafter we'll talk about the fourth element in this series, how you can put all this together in a planner, in a diary that actually works for you. Meantime, get some good R&R, get some good coffee if you can, get some fresh air, take some time alone, gather your thoughts, and when the time is right, and only when the time is right, get your head back in the game for the week ahead and get stuck in and make a difference next week. We see you this time next week. Take care. Love my coffee. Talk to you soon. Have a lovely week. Bye for now.